Hello, everybody, and welcome to our show. Thank you all for coming. Thank you for coming to session two of three of the anniversary, the 3-year anniversary to the Egregore Project or the Soul Tribe Workshop, depending on which thing I'm reading at the time. Where Courtney and I got to meet, got to become friends, got to work with each other as a team and learn. And I first want to start up that I want to thank our Wayne Steiger for the project, for him getting us involved, for the learning process, for him being part of and teaching us so much just from the experience of the Egregore Project or the Soul Tribe Workshop. I also want to thank Gift, the Egregore, and all the great things it brought to a lot of us. I've got some information. People had really good experiences from Gift. There's questions whether Gift appeared as a male or a female or different ways. That's all. Doesn't really matter. I just want to thank Gift for everything it brought, all the good, enlightening, and positivity it brought to all our lives. So thank you all for coming. Thank you, Seeker of Truth. I think Griff O'Brien and Chloe were here. Thank you all. As people move in, I'll thank them. But Courtney, how are you doing?
I'm okay. Yeah, I'm okay. I actually, I think we had a little earthquake again last night down here in Georgia. The
Really?
dog, yeah, the dog at like 4:20 something in the morning just started going nuts. And he was not settling down, and I kept letting him outside, letting him back in, and at one point between those, I laid on the couch and I could feel like vibration. And I was like, is this for me? What is going on? And no, I'm pretty certain we had an earthquake because I let him back in again and he kept pawing at me. And then I could hear other dogs in the neighborhood. So this is now at like 4:40 in the morning going nuts. And I let him outside again. I was like, y'all can figure it out, dogs. Because I'm groggy. That dog did not settle down until like 7 something in the morning. And what really happened was I'm back in bed, and at 7:20 Brad got up to get some coffee. What he normally does is have some coffee and then goes lay down again. Whatever, he's a different sort. And everybody's up again, and I have not gotten any sleep. And so I came out to the kitchen. I was like, you, that dog, you're both laying on the couch. I'm kicking y'all out of the bedroom. I'm going to shut the door. I have to get sleep. One of those. And I did, man. I slept from like 7:30 to like 11:30, which now I think is going to mess up my sleep, but I'm pretty positive it was another earthquake, which I had to say, Lucky. So I've been through a ton of tornadoes. I'm probably never going to be in a tsunami because I'm never going to be that close to the ocean like that. I'm scared of earthquakes. Like it's so foreign to me being from Illinois. I mean, we don't get that now I'm like, oh, the ground could start moving. Hell, it could crack open. Like, I'm just trying to work through the reality of the earth is shifting, right? But so, hey, I'm now wide awake. I'm wide awake now, which is not my normal. But other than that, lucky for me, for the past couple hours, I've been reviewing things in my mind about tonight, as I'm sure you have too. And I think for me personally, this is all about teaching for me. All of this is a teachable moment. All of this is for future online communities to know the pluses, the minuses, how to really go about things in a good, positive, constructive way. And that's where I'm coming from, is I really, you know me, especially being a patron, I'm always about safety first. Safety first, education, go slow, take your time. And the fact that we were doing this in 6 weeks, man, unreal, so that's where I'm going to be coming from tonight. Purely education, but I am going to be forthright in all that went on with all the different personalities that were a part of this.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, for me, but when I talked to you about it, I thought it was at least 3 months. I
Yeah.
thought we were doing this for at least 3 months. And for it to be, when I found out, literally looking at the data, it was 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
I could not believe it. And in my memories, it seemed like a lot longer. It seemed like a lot more effort. And I mean, I'm going through my notes, and honestly, my notes are a mess. I back then, I must have been just at my wit's end. I mean, just all the data and trying to figure it out and everything. And I have the data in the spreadsheets, but again, even that is just so. Whew, what I wrote, and what you were much more detailed, to fine detail, to brevity. You knew brevity. I did not know brevity. I was taking all the data was important. All the data is important. So
yeah, I know. I remember. I remember. So this is when it's like, okay, we became really close through this is because of stuff like that. So there were about 40 something people in your group, about 40 something in my group, and we'll do a little synopsis for everybody if they didn't catch the first video. But I remember your spreadsheets, and I kept also, I remember turning to you at multiple times like, Lucky, is this what you do to people, your coworkers? Like, sum it up, bro. You know, like, but out of that though, our personalities got to very much know each other out of all of this. And, you know, like we said last time, we started having to be on the phone constantly with each other, and then that just carried through. And I do have to say, like, as someone observing like your experience in a way with this, when you say that if looking back it felt like 3 months for you, Lucky, it's because you carried so much of this. You really were carrying it. And so even when it was over, there was still so much residue and somewhat stress and confusion and thoughts, and when it was all over. And we'll get into it tonight, everybody. Welcome in, everybody. Because, I mean, like I said, Lucky, I remember by week 5, I was like, Lucky, pull away. Cut all of your energy. We got to walk away from this shit. And you're not, you loyal person, man, you stayed very loyal. And so I can imagine, yeah, to you, it did feel like 3 months.
Yeah, and it's I did learn a lot. I did. If I ever was going to repeat, I would never want to repeat this. But if I was ever going to repeat this at gunpoint, if I was going to repeat this, I could definitely do better. I knew where the gaps were. I mean, honestly, the idea of, I mean, I think we have to bring something up that I keep hearing in my head. Let's just say it's been suggested to me strongly. I believe part of it, the problem was, the idea was that the building that we're going to meet in was supposedly built on the astral when it really should have been built on the ethereal. And you had to shift it to the ethereal rather than the astral. I think that was one of our initial problems. Do you agree?
I fully agree. And actually, Lucky, before we get into that, can you go over, like, just briefly the 6 weeks of what we were supposed to be doing for everybody who, if they're just now tuning in, and welcome everybody for coming, because this was what it started as, what it kind of morphed into, the things added, I want to say lack of direction, but it was also lack of education. And I'm not trying to be rude to anyone here, but it was that, like, you just brought up this chamber aspect. Is it in the astral? Is it in the ethereal? What's going on? How is it being built? And that's what I mean about using this as an educational moment, because yeah, I was working my ass off on that chamber pretty much the whole time. Yeah, we'll learn, because unfortunately that was my biggest focus, was that chamber, because I know safety first, man. Safety first all the time. all the time. And as Chloe just said, dangerous in the astral. So, yeah, Lucky, can you go over that real quick for folks?
Yes. I'm going to go briefly over, let's just say, the title page. The purpose of the group is to explore the possibilities of connecting on a group level, consciousness, subconscious, using our latent telepathic abilities. Love that. Determine if actual connections of focus through can be established on both the individual and group level of shapes and words and images. Fantastic. Love that. Excuse me. Activate telepathic and other abilities within the group. Fantastic. Have fun. Great. Now create a self-control group egregore designed by the group to serve the group and others. And I really wish that was part of phase 2, which we never actually had a phase 2, but it's basically, it's the goal to be able to verify accuracy, all great, connect telepathically, purposes and intent, all experiences are during the workshop, record events accurately. This is all great stuff, the 3 symbols, the circle, the cross, the 3 wavy lines, the square, the star, all this was great stuff. Week 1, bring the group together as designed, agreed upon time for 5-minute focus on the first key word in shape. And we basically, each person will record what they experience, what they see first, what they focus on, what any words they see, any images, all great stuff.
So the shape, though, real quick, are those psychic cards. Like
Right.
There's decks that people can purchase that have a square, a cross, wavy lines,
what
that
it is
sort of thing.
Yeah, what it is a circle, which a yellow circle represents number 1, a red cross, which represents the number 2, and then 3 wavy lines, which again 3 in blue, a black square, which represents the number 4, and then a green star, which represents the number 5. And that's what they're on 3 different levels, so you can either color, number, or shape. That's the idea. And then when you see an image, you take the image in your head, you write it down, then you translate what the image could mean out of these 5 cards. That's the telepathic, that's the psychic card aspect of the whole thing, which is the easy part. And of course, then you would see a shape, and then of course Wayne added a word, a specific word, and see if anyone catches that word. And week 1 is 2 pages long.
We were also building. Were we building the chamber at that time? The location in week 1?
5 minutes on a Sunday at 6 a.m. I just do it. Wow, 6 a.m. I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, bro.
Possibly during the exercise. At the same time, each person practice telepathically, gathering and find the available.
And so everybody knows too, this was happening May of 2022. So it was 3 years ago.
Yeah,
so when we're kind of tonight, I'm sure more memories have come back to Lucky and I. Tonight we're reviewing a lot of it. We're going back 3 years. And so things are not going to be perfect in our memory, but Lucky does have at least what we were supposed to be doing. So
right. Yeah, there actually isn't the chamber here on week 1. Nothing about the chamber. Week 2, Wayne will send out a keyword after coming together, a shape. You will do 5 minutes of focused concentration along with the new word in shape. And then week 3, we'll extend the focus time to 10 minutes using the keyword in shape, adding color this time. We will begin to add characteristics we want in our egregore to possess. If you connect to a name, write it down when you're sending it.
So wait a minute, do we even have a chamber before we do the egregore? Yeah.
No.
Right.
There is no chamber here.
Or location or anything.
No.
It's normally referred to as a chamber.
There is nothing about a chamber in here at all, and I am surprised.
Uh-huh. That's because, Lucky, even before people received that information, because we were also sending out that information, there was so much conversation on his channel that it was as if we were already supposed to be making it. We were supposed to already be doing all this stuff before the project even started. And that is where things got really tricky, is because there were people participating in building a location, a chamber, because that is what is normally referred to,
Yeah.
that were not even a part of the project, that did
Which
not actually sign up for the project.
we didn't have their names, their emails. We knew where to contact them. So there were participants, shadow participants. I don't know what to call them. We
Yeah,
didn't
yeah,
know about.
yeah.
There were emails that I sent that didn't that no one responded to. So whether they didn't get the emails or they may have still participated, but they never responded. So I mean, it is a weird situation. I agree with you that I believe there were more than the people that we had on our list participating.
Yeah, and if you remember, like a lot of the live streams that led up to actually doing this project, people were already developing this egregore. The chamber was already forming. He would, Wayne would be holding onto a card and try to send it out during that live stream.
Hmm.
Okay, everybody, guess what it is? There was so much talk
Hmm.
that things were unclear before we even got to it. So you're telling me that the actual description of what we were supposed to be doing went from seeing if you can retrieve what is being sent out, because Wayne was what we were also doing, Lucky, is that we were backing up Wayne. So like Wayne Friday night would be transmitting these signals, these cards, the word, colors, right?
Right.
Usually us by Sunday morning, we had to get up before everybody else, or we did it on Saturday, what have you. And we then also would be transmitting all this stuff out. But we were told to go to this chamber. On that paperwork, though, it's not even identified.
I believe that a lot of the work happened during the week where Wayne would bring things up during the week about this project.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd have to re-watch Wayne's shows from 3 years ago. There's a lot to watch, and I don't even know how to get to that. So,
Well, it's
uh,
wild because it's like we went from already basically doing it to, okay, now the project starts, to then in this project going from semi psychic abilities straight to start giving the egregore characteristics, start forming this egregore.
yes.
And I mean, it's so fast. Even the videos leading into it, even the live streams leading into it, that is not enough time, right? It's not enough time. And once again, there's hundreds of people watching, hundreds of people. So who's all actually being influenced? Who's all actually participating? Who's all within the mix?
Yeah, because I mean,
So,
yeah, Wayne did mention it during his show. So, what's that? Yeah, Wayne was always mentioning it during his show. So, what time we were going to do it, he was explaining everything, which is good and fine. But the problem comes that people can easily participate outside of our group.
right.
Uh,
And what's interesting is he wrote, you just read it, self-contained, controlled, or whatever, self-controlled
oh yeah,
community. You just read the words. That, no, man, we never got to that. We couldn't even get to that. Like, all right, cool. Let's see what online stuff happens, what goes on. Um, I think what it is then by week 3, we're supposed to be giving characteristics to this Egregore. By week
Yep.
4, it's like start talking to him. I think what happened is this started as just a telepathic telepathic project for an online community.
Which would have been
And
great.
then,
It's all we needed.
yes. And then the Egregore was added because I do remember that we were supposed to go to this chamber, right? And then remember him talking about like, and it'll be great. We can all go there and have a big old feast and talk and hang out. And this is a place that we can hang out and communicate telepathically. That is all beautiful and well. And then this egregore was attached, and then it became, hey, this egregore can actually send our messages. This egregore is how we're going to communicate with one another, which I had never heard that ever. I honestly haven't. I have never heard using an egregore to send a bunch of messages. Not like that. Not in
No.
a not in an uncontrolled, there's hundreds of people that we don't know about. Like, I've never heard of that.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
sorry,
yeah,
and what happened, like, what's the point of having a chamber? Then it is a cage for the egregore.
yeah. That's what that's. I don't. Yes, it's. I don't like it. I mean, I don't. It makes me uncomfortable. I'm not sure how to voice how it makes me uncomfortable.
Well, okay, I get it. Okay, take a
Because
because take a
the
pause.
Egregore, it's child, it's a baby, and all it knows the cage. And eventually, once it gets mature enough to say, "I'm in a cage," it's gonna resent, and I don't want to be there because I gifted some great things for people, and I would
Mhm.
makes me sad to think that it would need to be in a cage. But again, if we're not controlled, if we're not in our best self, then our worst selves will become part of the egregore, and that's
Well,
sad.
and I think and not everybody was on the same page.
That's a
Once it
problem.
became, hey, this is how we're going to communicate. Tell the egregore what you want to say to somebody else. That's when we were getting responses back of like, well, the egregore is flirtatious.
Hmm.
What? That's probably because somebody wanted to be like, hey, I think this one's hot over here. Go tell them.
Hmm.
That was never, it was always supposed to be, or mischievous, or a jokester, or they started putting all these human qualities on this energy being because we were all of a sudden, we're no longer meeting up and talking in the chamber. Now we're using him to bop around, which led to very, very unsafe circumstances. Because like we said last week, I had never given permission for that thing to come and talk to me. Never
Right,
once. So
right.
then you and I had to talk to everybody about, do you give permission for that? You know? So let's clarify. Sorry, y'all. We're jumping right in, and I guess I'm jumping in hot. Sorry, Lucky. Um Week 3 is when we start giving this thing characteristics. Week 4, it's coming into form, right?
Hmm.
Week 5, we're supposed to be able to use it. I just have never heard of something going so fast in a uncontrolled environment. Like,
There it
if
is.
this was 6 people, all on the same page, all working together accordingly, all connecting every day.
Oh
Um,
wait, there we go. Week 5. From here, we must begin to construct a place where we can all begin to meet, even when the group is not meeting together. So there was a place constructed, but it was not well defined. Okay, I mean, there are improvements. There definitely can be work on improvements. There's learning. Yeah, but we created the egregore on week 3. Oh, wow. We didn't construct something till week 5.
But yet we did because we were told in live streams to start constructing.
No, yeah, exactly. See, this thing is, it gets very. It was very just we had a lot going on, and we needed better definitions of things. We needed to. This was a learning process. If this is ever done again, we can find ways of improving it. But 6 weeks is not enough time.
What's interesting though, then, let's say that was the course that we were supposed to take. You and I and everybody else that participated knows that there was some kind of location chamber.
Mm-hmm.
And you and I know, and others too, that was one of the biggest confusions out of all of this. Because this is how I saw it, in my humble opinion. If we took we started with about 86 participants. I think a quarter of them by week 2 started falling off. I mean, they just didn't follow through. Okay, fine, whatever. Then another quarter of that, they were struggling because they would start giving us feedback. They were struggling to reach, quote unquote, this chamber, this location. They were like, I can't get to the astral or the ethereal, and I'm not. And I would try to talk to them about in emails, like, hey, just focus on trying to receive whatever the symbol is, whatever the color is. Just chill out. This is not. Then about a quarter of them, they were all going to the astral. They all thought this was in the astral. And then another quarter of them were definitely trying to, they understood the difference. They knew that they were trying to be in the ethereal, and I would say maybe a small percentage of them were able to actually obtain it, right? Actually achieve being in this chamber. But the chamber was made up then of, like we talked last week, of whatever fancy these people wanted. It could be a log cabin. It could be a beach. It could be a place in the woods. It could be a castle. It could be ancient ruins. It could be whatever these people wanted. It had no true structure and form. And yeah, you brought it up, Lucky. Those who operate in the astral, which no one really should. That doesn't just come from me. I mean, everybody out there, if you need a more credited person, David Icke would tell you the same. Astral is the hell plane. Every flippin' week, I would have to take that out of the astral and move it into the ethereal. Every week, what these people were doing. It was unreal. And that's the problem is the lack of awareness, a lack of education, and time. Like, look, you're a patron of mine at Stars of Morning Light. We've been working with pyramids, and you're one of them that now you use a pyramid all the time over yourself, over your home, this and that, because of the power of that sacred geometry. When we go to do our telepathic project, it'll be with those who have been working with a pyramid on their individual lives. Where do you think we're all going to meet? We're going to meet inside of a pyramid because nothing negative can enter. And it's not like we can mess up that sacred geometry all that hard. This stuff was wild. It was wild what people thought they were creating. So very dangerous. So many cracks. So many cracks.
Yeah, I mean, I remember that when I visited it, the thing was, you had a small base and a very big second floor, and then the third floor. It was weird. It was like knocked together, put together. I don't know how else to put it. It was haphazard. That's the only word. It was very, and I was trying to, because that was one of my struggles was, what is this?
Yeah, what is this? Every multiple times a week, I would go to that damn chamber I would have to get it out of the astral, which it would end up being right back. I mean, I think by week 3 I kind of, in my mind, I think I was like, man, if you're going to play with the astral, then hang out there. Like I'm not going to keep pulling this out of the astral, because by week 3, you and I had to do a live because Wayne disappeared. And
Yes.
I kept stressing to people, this is not in the astral. So after that, if they wanted to play in the astral, then that was up to them. I was focused so much on those who were trying to be wise, And, but yeah, man, every week, and the cracks, the foundation was always messed up. So the amount of rebuilding every week, multiple times, and then having to surround it in protection, because it was clear this is so unprotected. So unprotected. Do you know how many then astral beings wanted to be attached to all that? I had to kick all that out multiple times a week. So by the time the real stuff, and that's not even the main issue here, Lucky. It's not even the main issue that went down, in my opinion. It was what caused great issue. It was the lack of foundation will always create cracks that can be infiltrated.
Yeah, we were struggling from the beginning. There was some negative impact towards us, definitely. And yes, I do know. I remember one thing is that there were beings trying to get in to the chamber. I remember that specifically. And I said to my guides, what about this? And the guides are like, you have nothing to worry about this. They can't get in. No matter what they cry and complain, they can't get in to where you want to go. Where you are, fine. Where that is, you don't have to deal with that. Just get in, do your thing, get out. That's it. But yeah, I could see them. It was like a wall, like a glass wall with these things popping off of it. I remember that. That was my image of it, and it was weird. And I remember. I'm like, this is weird. And then, my guides are very much hands off. Don't worry about it. Just do what you need to do. They were not very helpful, honestly.
Yeah. Well, they probably also just observing as in a way of like, and because Lucky, you wouldn't have gotten hurt. You would never. No, you were never my concern.
The chamber itself was always safe. It just was weird. It was a weird funhouse like thing. Funhouse.
Well, there came a point. So let's back up the track for everybody. Let's back it up. So 2 weeks before we were supposed to start this, 2 or 3 weeks, and I will state names with this association, this part of the story. Further on, I don't feel the need to state names. About 2 or 3 weeks prior to it. So we had said in the last video that you and I ended up being the last 2 people on board to actually help this project, to take on the data, to take this. That was not what it was originally. There were others that were ready and willing before you and I were. You were the very last, and I came in the midst of that of like, what the hell? So leading into this, so we have now had a pocket of at least, I would say, 6 weeks or so of dialogue with live streams on Wayne's show, and we're discussing this chamber. We're discussing the cards. We're practicing. We're talking about the Egregore. Remember in the last video, you said it came and visited me, and I was like, "You get the hell out. I'll see you later. You're not supposed to be here." Prior to that, a woman named Linda and a man named David, lovely David, has passed on since this, and so this is not in any disrespect to David. It's just humans and what humans do. those two got into some kind of disagreement. That's just, but it kept growing. And I would be on the phone with David, and I'd be on the phone with Linda, and I'd say, drop it, let it go. It became very high schoolish. What side are you on? Are you for David? Are you for Linda? And all of this is leading into this project. And it's causing all this discord and all this stuff. And Linda kept saying, you know, if David is still a part of this project, he's going to bring it down. He's going to bring danger. Everything's going to go wrong if David is still a part of this. David was not saying that about Linda, but he was trying to, you know, stand up for himself, right? It became very high school, extremely high school, which once again, like I have a friend right now that might be watching, lovely friend. He's a part of like witchy communities on TikTok, and crazy stuff happens on those communities, usually based out of like some he said, she said high school drama, even though these are 50, 40, 50, 60-year-old people, right? So once again, learning experience and teaching experience, that clouded. It started to create division. It started to create this ominous kind of atmosphere. I kept trying to tell Linda, like, please just drop it so we can move forward. And please do not be self-sabotaging here. Like, if you keep thinking it's going to be David, it might be you, sister, because you're not letting it go. David's actually willing to let it go. And there was just so much drama. And that's why last week's video, I talked about the first time I saw you. In a one Zoom call meeting with Wayne to go over things, everybody that was supposed to help had fallen out because I saw the drama. I mean, this was so much drama. They fell out. I'm still in it. Linda, I think, thought that I was going to do like some girl code and be on her side with kicking out David, and you know, and she had an ultimatum. If you didn't kick out David, then we need to end this project now. That was her ultimatum to Wayne. So Linda's in that Zoom meeting with me and Wayne, and they start going back and forth. And at some point, Wayne starts screaming, Linda starts screaming. And that's when it was like, hey, Linda, are you in or out? And she said, clearly I'm out. If you're going to go ahead with it, I'm out. And I said, okay, well then bye. Later. See ya. Like, you're wasting our time here, sister. She was very angry with me about that. I could care less because I don't do girl code. I'm thinking of the hundreds of people that have now just spent weeks building a chamber, talking to an egregore, working on their psychic gifts. And once again, that's when I turned to Wayne and said, hey, you know that the energies available to develop psychic abilities are right now. This is a window. You know that this has inspired hundreds of people for weeks, that they're going to do this and they're going to grow and they're going to receive this gift of egregore and their lives could change. This has been nothing but inspiration for weeks. Why let some high school bullshit get in the way of that, right? So we went through with it, but that cloud was over it. Do you remember that, Lucky? All that drama?
I came in at the end where
Yeah.
literally I came into the Zoom conference where I believe you said, are you in or out, Linda? And she says, I'm out. And then went and you said, okay. And she little signed off. So I came into her signing off. And then I came into expecting I was going to get a piece of the pie, like a 10, 25% off. And I ended up getting 50%. So yeah, I mean, childhood traumas come into our lives later in life. So I don't know what was between them, but then they were gone. They were out of the group. They were out of the process. Fine. It was all good. But again, we did start on a negative note. There's no denying that.
It was causing division within this quote unquote online community. And
Yes.
that's what I mean. It's like I have, not myself, but I have friends who are deeply involved with other online communities that the same drama happens. And then
Yeah.
it can cause people thinking they need to retaliate or thinking that they need to do stuff. And the same went down with us. And it's unfortunate that people, they don't take the whole scope into picture. It's so weird. It's so weird. How many people do we got? Only 7, Lucky. Whoo. Maybe people are staying away tonight.
Yeah, it's been going up and down, and Chloe's been saying there's more to it, and she can't talk about it. But yes, the problem is we started on a bad note, and although they were both removed, the problem still persisted where people were choosing sides when even though there was no sides to choose, they were both gone. There was nothing. So that's where the weirdness happened, where things where you need to choose sides, but there was nothing to choose. They were both
There's
gone.
nothing to choose. And
There was nothing.
and
Yeah,
even
the negative energy continued into the project. That was the problem.
and yet even still, like I'm sure Chloe probably knows more of the backstory, what happened with Linda and David, because everybody tried to explain it to me, and I never caught on because I'm
It
not a
doesn't.
part of the Discord. I'm not a part of the Discord stuff.
It never
And
mattered. It never mattered what between them.
right, that's
They
how
were
I
removed
saw it.
from the group. They were removed from it. So what happened between them should never have. I mean, should never have affected the project, but it did.
Right.
That was the problem.
So that was like the weeks leading into it, and then we started.
Yes. Yeah, and then I got thrown into the middle of the lines. Then like, oh, what the? Okay,
Yeah,
okay. And my
and
guys are just like, yep, go ahead, do it. Can I have any help? No,
do it.
no help from us. Just do it.
Do it.
Do it.
Just
Just
do
do it.
it.
You're gonna
It's
learn
because your
from.
guides, yeah, your guides knew, and you're going to meet a fabulous person named Courtney.
Yeah, guides are just very much. They love. That's one of the things that my guides do love to do is just like go see what you can do with this.
Yeah, which is good. I mean, you got to put yourself out there in order to live life, So this is what I will tell people. This is why I'm so keen on that chamber aspect, is because that was done so incorrectly, in my opinion, that it did leave the foundation weak. It did leave cracks. It had to be basically kind of restructured almost every time, and then protection up every time. And I would say, so the first week happened. The second week I had my hysterectomy, right?
Yes.
Leading in by the third week for me, Lucky, I got through the surgery, this and that. By the third week, I had gone into the chamber to see how's it doing, what work do you need now, and I saw a whole lot of negative, I mean evil energy outside of it. It was not inside, but it was outside of it.
I agree.
And I was like, whoa, what the hell, man. And I first was like, okay, this might just be energy that's traveling. It's moving about. And maybe it's trying to see what's going on here. So it's hanging out a little bit for a while. So I moved it on. Like, go on. And I didn't, honestly, I didn't think too much about it until I went back in to help restructure it again before everybody shows up on Sunday morning, right? So this had to have been like a Thursday or Friday. I think it was a Thursday. And that negative energy had not just come back, it was in full force and it was strong. And I then went, oh, you're not just here because you're traveling. This was sent. So I then went outside of the chamber to talk to it. And I said, because I know who I am and I have my authority and I know what I'm doing. I said, show me who sent you. Well, actually, I didn't say that first. I said, what ritual sent you? I said, show me the ritual. because it's not like I don't know this shit. And I saw the ritual. And I said, now show me whose hands those are. And they showed me whose hands those were attached to. And then I said, show me everyone. Right? I said, show me everyone. And it came into being. And it came into being that because of girl code, because of ridiculous girl code and all that drama leading into it, and how we know that this is going to go wrong. We know this is going to go wrong. So now our ego pride wants to prove it. Mm-hmm. Girl code. That Linda and her little buddy tried to do a ritual. Well, here's the thing. I saw Linda haphazardly. By that time, she didn't even really care that much. She had moved on. She was just a ball of anger. She lit a candle with some stuff around. She didn't know what she was doing. The other one, though, I got to see that she enlisted those who do know. Because that little witch, she wouldn't have known how to do all that by herself. She enlisted others to kind of show her some stuff, teach her some stuff. And then because of whatever that community is, they gave it a little bit of boost of energy. Just out of, we're all in here together, working together, which is very common in covens, witchy communities, what have you. We're going to give it a little bit of boost for you, no questions asked. So in reality, what happened there was now we have a very faulty, messed up, cracked ridden chamber that now evil. I mean, it was one of those people that she had reached out to. Yeah, they know their stuff and they're powerful. That little boost that they gave. Yeah, man, they like doing this just because of who they are. I'm not even worried about them. I don't really care about Linda. I feel really bad for the one that did it though. Because it's going to take her at least a decade to recover. I do feel bad for her. But we have this chamber now, full of cracks, full of all sorts of stuff. And remember, Lucky, people were told to tell the Egregore what to then leave the chamber and go talk to others. Do you know what it would have to pass through?
Oh, I did not think of that. Yes, that was one of the problems.
Yes. I am thinking now of all the people that are going to be coming into that chamber on Sunday morning. I'm thinking about how this flippin' Egregore is being influenced by this. I'm thinking about all the cracks and holy shit, the protection that needs to happen now. So, and I took care of it. To get to the end of the story, definitely I took care of this. But that's what happened with... So I will say I talked to that negative, and that negative has to tell me, evil has to tell me who it is and what's going on and who sent it and whatnot. I went back and I said, I'll be back for you later, because I was too angry at that time. I knew I would have done something I might have regretted. I went back into the chamber to talk to the Egregore. I told the Egregore, I said, you do not leave this chamber. And then it got all big on me, which showed me, it got aggressive and big, which showed me it had been influenced by that. And so I got all big with it. And I was like, you better get back in your place. You're trying to think that I'm not your master. I'm your master. Like we all are its master. That's what people didn't understand. We're all of its master. So I got it back in place and I said, you are not leaving this chamber. And honestly, this is the part of my memory I don't remember. I might have chained it. I don't think I did. I think I might have just put something on it and told it, like, if you leave, I will know. Like what we think of like a house, what is that called when you get out of jail? And you got your little ankle bracelet. Yeah, like an ankle bracelet.
Yes.
Yeah, I might have put something like that on it, but I honestly, at that point, I might have chained it. I don't know. That was just out of protection for everybody in that moment. And then I got out of there, so everything's still there. I called you the next morning.
So this is just sad. This poor being trying to do what's best, but getting influenced by the negativity because its job is to go out and to spread messages.
Yeah.
So it is set up to unfortunately, it's a victim. It's unfortunately,
yes.
We made this poor thing a victim, and it's not fair. Poor Gift deserved better, and we couldn't. We tried to work within the rules we were given, and unfortunately, poor Gift was giving a poor set of instructions.
So the next morning, because I needed to take that night, because I was so upset that I was not in my right mind of how I wanted to handle this, right? And I know that I learned a long time ago that if I ever feel justified, that's time to check myself. Like, if I feel justified of throwing that shit back at that female and adding my own, I need to pause. I need to stop. Because I choose love over fear. But I was thinking about everybody. I was thinking about all the potential danger and hazards and negative influence. So I called you the next morning. I think it was a Friday morning. I called you and I was like, Lucky, this is what's going on. And I'm certain this is what's going on now. And I said, I'm thinking about calling Grandpa Brian in because I know that he understands what's going on. Like, he understands what an egregore is. He's going to be of love and light. He's going to be able to kind of take this egregore under his wings, and nurture him and really teach him. And also he can do the energy work to get rid of whatever negative is in the egregore, because I'm going to focus on getting, it was a very strong amount of evil outside. This was the equivalent of some heavy, I knew the ritual. So I mentioned that to you and I said, I'm thinking about calling Grandpa Brian in to be with the egregore so I can handle this other stuff. And you, poor you get off work on a Friday morning at like 8:30 and we're having this conversation. You said, yeah, call Brian. And that's how Brian really got in here, because brought him further into the fold, because I had to handle that. Brian did take that egregore under his wing. I think Brian had a lot of learning experience too. And I think that's why he's going to be here next week, everybody. Grandpa Brian 420 is going to be here next week on May 31st of 2025 to tell us about his experience. And I will also say, Grandpa Brian, when I told him what was going on, and I told him who, because I was still very angry. I was still very angry. He confirmed with his pendulum that night that, yeah, Courtney saw it. Courtney was right of who it was. Like I said, Lucky, when I am in that kind of justified anger, vengeful feelings, protection. I mean, mama bear, like mama lion, like you ain't never known. I do have to stop and realize that stuff like that is done by the ignorant, the fearful, the prideful, the egotistical, the immature. All of that stuff is always done by those. And partly, I think she also wanted to see if she could do it. Right? Because she's a baby witch. So I think she wanted to see if she could really do it. And then proved everybody, they could come back into the fold and like prove to everybody, we were right. This was a failure. Yeah, because you wanted to create it that way and potentially harm hundreds of people. So to make a long story short there, though, I checked myself. What I did do, Lucky, is I restructured that thing. I took all of that negative and I sent it, and I didn't even send it back because I know better, because that's even than me. That's just cause and effect, bouncing back and forth. I got it away and I gave it to the universe to do what they saw fit, because I do understand the law of three.
Yes.
And I also understand that was a potential of harming hundreds of people, not the law of three. Because, I mean, I talked to the universe and they said, we got this. And I said, well, ooh, don't hurt her too bad. She just don't know no better. But, yeah, I'm assuming that if she doesn't, this is where repenting comes from. This is where the concept repenting, Day of Atonement, all of it comes from. Because when you do stuff like this, the law of three is going to bite you back. And if you don't admit, acknowledge, and ask for forgiveness and change your ways, it's just going to keep cycling through until the energy dissolves itself or runs out its course. But usually it's just one-on-one or one on a couple, one here and there. The potential of harming hundreds of people, I can't even imagine. That hole's going to be so fucking hard on her, man. It is what it is. Not my decision, the universe.
Well, yeah, but that's, the universe knows what's best.
Yeah.
It's not for us. Yes.
It's unbelievable to think that out of some random weird girl code that you barely have, because it's not like you went to high school with this person. And it's not like you've known him for the past 30 years. To jeopardize people like that, I just can't wrap my head around it. That in itself, learning experience, folks, or educational. Check yourself. Think about the whole before you go out and start doing stuff, right?
Well, she is lucky, because you're saying the law of three. I heard it was a law of seven, so.
Well, depending. She didn't do nothing she did not do anything in the amount for the law of seven. That's a different, you have to really know your stuff and really cause harm, like truly harm. That's when you're, yeah.
Allowing the universe to take care of it was the best solution, because the universe knows how to make all things equal, and the best outcome for all, that sort of thing.
Yeah, and so I do feel bad for her now. I mean, I needed a minute, because then lucky, by week 4, so we had to call Brian in by week 4. I'm calling Brian that Friday night. I remember the mosquitoes. I'm on the phone with them outside. The mosquitoes were so bad. I just remember that at my house. I call Brian, tell him all the stuff. He's willing to help with the Egregore. He came in. That's his own story. He'll be here next week to talk about it. And I remember by week 5, though, I have to say, I had to check myself again, because some personal stuff happened in your life that my initial reaction was, if this has anything to do with what she did, I will destroy her. That was my first initial reaction. And I did not, but The
other problem is week 3 is when Wayne disappeared.
Right.
Yeah, so we
had to so all this, yes.
Right, so we had to call Brian in, because it was the two of us. We were trying to take control of things, and Wayne, unfortunately, never emailed, never said anything. He just disappeared, and I guess he moved from Colorado to, I don't know, Oklahoma, Michigan. I don't, somewhere in the Midwest, somewhere, Tennessee area.
No, I thought he moved later. This was originally, okay, so everybody, while this is happening on my end, the guy running this apparently also just disappeared.
Disappeared completely.
This is what people don't get, Lucky. They thought he was communicating with us. He did not communicate with I didn't even bother sending the dude an email, because I was like, this shit's on fire, so I'm putting out fires. I don't got time to email you. You kept trying to email him and communicate with him.
He disappeared. What's going on? Are you okay? At least something. And he said nothing, and just popped in a week and a half later. It took the center start again. So I'm honestly, I'm a little resentful for that, but I'll get over it. But that's
Disappear.
for
I
me.
know that his stepdaughter had a car accident. Some other like big financial stuff happened. I don't think he was moving at the time. There was
Also,
just kind of a boom, boom, boom. Which
yeah,
also, this is what people don't get when you do something like this, and there's so many personalities. You don't know who's throwing what into the mix. Lucky you ended up having some issues within your home. Wayne, car accident, financial issue,
yes,
all sorts of stuff started happening at his house.
yes,
All sorts of stuff is happening. So that's why when he disappeared on us, we did our live to be like, hey, please don't go to the astral. I'm tired of that, and tell people we are still going to go on with it. We don't know where Wayne is. We don't know what's going on with them.
yeah,
Uh, we did that and we kept going. But I know by week 5, I was telling you, get all your energy away from this stuff. We can chill.
yes,
We can
I,
transmit a
yes,
card and an image
yes,
from wherever we are to these people. We
yes,
don't have to do all this pull back, pull back. And it's because the variables were so many as to we don't even know. It could have been just her, and it could have been a bunch of other people throwing shit in the mix. We have no idea, but now all of a sudden people are being affected in great ways and in not great ways. Too many. It's so funny. Self-contained control community, however he put it, that was not the case. That was not the case whatsoever.
yes. That is true. We do. It's definitely a lot to learn. There was a lot to learn from this project, and yes, yes, it was a lot. Yes, and I think week 5 was when my wife was diagnosed with breast cancer, and it was quite a lot to deal with. But I still stayed with it because I needed the diversion. And you're right.
Mhm.
I could pull away. I could just transmit the card, and that was never a problem. But to be involved with the chamber itself I was out. I was out at that
Yeah.
point. So to me, I I lost contact with Gift because again there was too many variables and I couldn't control it. So I just transmitted the cards and the sign and the word and colors and everything, and that was good. That was good enough for me. And um,
Yes.
so
Yes.
I did cut all contact with the Egregore at that point, which was good to have Grandpa Brian in there and you to deal with the
Mhm.
other situation because I couldn't deal with it. But I still stayed with
No.
the project to the end.
You did. You did. You were collecting the data, you were transmitting the symbols and the words and the colors. But yeah, Lucky, I guess I never expressed that to you. Like, I was mad when I first knew, and I calmed down. I mean, I'm a good person, I forgive. And then when your wife got that diagnosis, that was my first thought. And my
Hmm.
first thought was, I'm gonna attack, and I'm gonna attack so flippin' hard because she now. And who knows if it was even from that. But I was that pissed, and once again, I stopped and I said, "You're not that person anymore. You're not that immature person who's doing the exact same thing they do." And you know, um, which for myself, I mean, I hadn't been that person for over decades, but it's not like it's not in me. It's in
Hmm.
all of us. It's in
True.
all of us. That's why I think you didn't let go for so long, is because there was so much to it that needed more explanation, that needed more why, needed more how does this even work? What happened?
Hmm. No, it was very much I do. I always like to have a path forward, and the only path forward from this is we learn from it, but I don't want to repeat it. But
Right.
if someone else does repeat this, I would like them to have the best foot forward. Um, if anyone ever wants to repeat this, I will gladly share, but I will never be involved ever again because
Yeah.
I don't want to be involved with creating an egregore with a group of people. Um, that's it.
It's not
It's for
really
me.
needed. In my opinion, it's not needed, but there are people, lots actually, I would say, so by the end of it, a big portion of them dropped out. They just, they just stopped. They just stopped
By,
following
by the
through with
end,
things.
I
Yeah,
honestly, I think the weird thing, I think week 6 had a sudden insurgence of more people, but
yeah,
it was very low during the last next couple of weeks. So I
yeah,
think people returned for week 6, but that was about it.
yeah.
I think 1
Right,
in 6 were the biggest numbers of
right,
people
right.
participating.
But in throughout all this, there's lack of follow through and whatnot. I think for a lot of people, though, they got a great deal out of it. I mean, there's multiple people that accredited Gift, which is the name of the egregore, by the way, which Chloe reminded me in a DM that she came up with that name. And I do remember in the chat she did. And then Wayne, I think, associated it with like go inward for truth. Like you tried to make it, I think so.
Yeah.
Don't it stood for something.
I have no idea because one of my weaknesses is acronyms. I hate them. I hate all
I
acronyms.
yeah, right. They
I
they
cannot
suck too.
stand acronyms. They cause me so. I'd rather just call it gift and not give it title words because there was probably something that, but I can't. One of my basically it's one of the things about people with neurotypical
Right.
neurodivergent. I forget whatever people with ADHD and autism stuff like that. One of them they hate acronyms, so I probably have a bit of that some kind of thing, and that's fine. Uh,
Yeah, I think it stood for go inward for truth.
Makes sense.
And
But
I do remember
go
Chloe
inside
coming
for
up with the name. I remember Chloe coming up go inside for truth. Okay, inside for thank you, Grandpa. Um, thank you, Brian. And I know Chloe did come with I remember that being in that chat. And Wayne was having the conversation of we have to name this thing because in order to have power over something, you got to name it, right?
Yeah,
And so
that's true.
but at the same time, it was the whole like, is it a male? Is it a female? Is it a male? Is it a female? It's an energy being just the same as us. There is no such thing. So Chloe came up with the name. So that's why we keep saying gift, everybody. It's the name of the egregore. Lucky, there's never been a time in history that an egregore was created and it ended up being good. And it is usually always because there becomes some kind of division within the community. There have been egregores created out of just a handful of folks that get together physically, not even online, that it starts out good. It starts out good. And then over time, it's the humans that out of jealousy, anger, hate, greed, whatever, the humanness starts to cause a division, and that egregore is then attached to it. And that egregore is feeding into that as well. And then the egregore learns all this stuff. And then whoever is maybe more stronger in that community telepathically, spiritually, or spends more quality time with egregore without others knowing, has the greater influence and then can send that egregore to do harmful things if they want. I have never heard throughout history of an egregore being a successful project in love and light and favor and prosperity and all of that. I've never, because of what the first 2 weeks of leading into it showed us. He said, she said, crap. And it is usually fear, jealousy, anger, hatred, greed, all of the sins. All of the sins, lust. This is why some of the egregores were being very flirtatious to some of the women. Some of the women actually felt very uncomfortable because the egregore was being flirtatious with them. Yeah, that would kind of freak me out.
Hmm.
So, like, hey, creeper weirdo guy that we don't even know who you are because we don't know each other, right? Online. Oh my goodness. Stop sending this egregore to I mean, there were women that they weren't being real touched, but yeah, they could tell something was trying to cop a feel. That's messed up, man. That's humans doing it, not this poor Egregore. And I knew Grandpa Brian 420 is such a stand-up guy that I knew he would be able to clean out any of that junk. He would spend time with it. He would teach it rightly, that sort of thing. That's why I was really, and Wayne disappeared. But Wayne, you know what? I don't think Wayne would have done anything about it in the first place, to tell you the truth. This was all, in my humble opinion, this was a great observation for Wayne.
It definitely was a learning experience, and there was a lot to it that we could improve upon. But again, yes, there's a lot of this I can improve upon, but again, I don't want to do it again. I mean, oof.
Would you do a telepathic one? Like no Egregore, but like in a community, even if it is online, that's smaller, so it is kind of contained, like it is a controlled environment, as all things should be when you're working with stuff like this. Would you do just a telepathic or psychic one?
It would be good as long as I knew all the people involved. I'd be much more, like I said, in the beginning, 3 years ago, I was go, yes, no problem. We'll figure it out as we go. Great. Now, hindsight, I need to know the group. And also, I would also put the stipulation that if we have a 6-week project and you don't appear for week 1, you're out. If you disappear week 2, you're out. These people had to be focused on it, because that was when people would come in and out throughout the project, and it might seem strict, it might be unfair, but if you can't be for the whole 6 weeks, it means you can't focus enough to you don't belong there. And I don't. It's just, we need focus. We need positive people who have drive to actually get this done, to actually do it. And if you're not confident you can do this the whole 6 weeks, then I'm sorry. Goodbye.
Next round. Next round. Something like that.
In the future.
Right.
That's one of the things that we didn't have. It was people were popping in and out. And again, we also had people who were not officially in there being involved too, which is another thing I would never want to involve. I'd rather do this in a small group where we never tell the days we're going to meet. We just do it in a small group, because we need the group we need the focus of the people, and I think also changing it up every week to make sure that, that if people drop out and you're cut off, then they don't know, because I wouldn't repeat it every week at 6 o'clock, every week at 6, 9, 10. We just have a certain time we can all agree upon. Yep, we'll do it, but it won't be the same each week, because, I don't want to cut people off. But again, this project has taught me that if you're not focused, you're going to cause trouble.
Yes. Yeah. For others. Like, it's not just about self, right? I do want to say, though, I think a lot of people did experience great stuff. And out of a lot of the emails and the data that we were collecting, people were accrediting this to new relationships, good relationships, new homes, new positive mindset. People were being able to get the feedback that they do have gifts. And if anything, those who did follow through started to form a habit of, I'm going to meditate at least once a week. I'm going to think positive thoughts. I'm going to learn the power of the mind. All these things. I'm going to learn about how to really work with energy. So for me, that's priceless. When people can learn the abilities that they have and how ultimate humans are, to me, that's lovely. It was for me, the lack of direction, guidance, organization, education, and lack of time, that all of that has to be in place. And let's not add all of these parts. Like, if it had just been a telepathic community or project, workshop, what have you, from can you see the image, can you get the keyword, what have you, and can you meet up in this chamber so we can start communicating? Because there were plenty of times that personally, I don't think Wayne can communicate in the chamber. I would show up and Wayne would be there. And I would try to talk to him and he was not able to talk. He was just like standing there almost like a statue. And I remember you, I think, saw that once too. I don't remember. He would just stand there like a statue. And I would try to be talking to him like, that's what we're supposed to be doing here. Hey, what's going on? And no response. And I just interpreted it as he was focusing so hard to transmit the symbol and the key word and whatnot that he was not open to communication, let's say. But I think that's a part of it too. Is I think in anything like that, there should be at least 2 or 3, depending on the size of the people, that have some kind of experience and awareness in this stuff instead of like they're learning along with you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's important. But again, you need an expert in egregores, and I don't think we can find that.
No, because most groups, they're learning as they go. I mean, throughout history, that's what you learn. Oh, they heard about this, so they decided they would do it, and shit went crazy. And also, I'm happy we're going to have Brian on next week because the back end of this, I have no idea what really happened with the Egregore within the Soul Tribe community that was participating. It looked like energies became very interesting. I don't know if Wayne is still doing his Friday show when he had a bunch of people on. I think if I can't speak for Brian, but I know he pulled back some. There was a lot of, I don't know. I think people pulled back. That is my observation. But when Brian's here next week at 8 p.m., same channel here at Lucky Stone 888, I think he's going to be able to give us where is Egregore? What happened? What happened and what is, what happened behind the scenes that I might not even know about? Because maybe, everybody in groups, they all talk about each other. And maybe there are a bunch of people talking about you and me, Lucky. But they're not going to tell us because we're the ones collecting the data. Right. Maybe there's a bunch of stuff that happened that we're not aware of, Kind of like how Chloe said in the chat just now that there was more to the David and Linda thing that I know I don't know about because it all went down on Discord or wherever it went down. And frankly, I didn't care because we're all supposed to be adults here and we're supposed to be focused, like you just said. Yeah, humans don't focus anymore.
It's a lot of baggage, unfortunately. We all brought our baggage, dropped it off, and to give it to the Egregore, and that's sad.
Right? This being that it didn't ask to be created. It didn't ask to be created.
Because I do believe that a lot of the problems we had was childhood baggage, childhood trauma that was somehow given to the Egregore to help us solve it. And unfortunately, it wasn't its place. And unfortunately, it didn't know what to do with it. So it became aggressive to try to protect. And unfortunately, it got negatively influenced. But again, I don't know because I did cut off at week 4 and just, collected data, transmitted the sign symbol, and went up from there. Because, I believe that I might have had some interactions with Telpas in my life because you never know what the spirits you run into. They might have been past Telpas. But again, everything I've run into has always been relatively innocuous, but minor, no big deal. But this Egregore situation was far beyond anything I've ever experienced in my life, and I don't really want to repeat it.
So now, like, even though we're talking about it, so therefore, if it is still present, because I just remembered. That's how I got it to get small again, because I told it in that moment, as I was like, you stay in this chamber type thing. I remember saying, I will destroy you right now and not care. Because that is how I felt. And I told Brian that too on the phone that night. I said, Brian, if this thing gets dangerous, I will destroy all of this and I will not care, from the egregore to the chamber to all of it. And I won't even, I won't ask for, and I told Brian, I will not ask for permission. I will destroy it all. Which I don't believe in destroying things. Good, bad, indifferent, evil, positive, any of it. I don't, that's not how I operate, but yeah, I was willing, and I'm still willing. I mean, if there's anything that goes awry like that to the point that it's extremely harmful, potentially harmful to people, yeah, I'll destroy it in a heartbeat, and I won't even ask for permission. Who am I going to ask for permission from? You know? So I remember that's how I got it to just stay in its place. I told it I would destroy it if it moved. Yeah. Which I feel bad about. I feel bad about a lot of all that happened. I'm not saying that people can't. I think it should be educational for future online communities to know that it has to be so organized and start small.
That's it. We needed more organization, no question about it. And we needed to be a smaller, trustworthy group that people who could focus 100% for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
We didn't have that.
We didn't have that. And 6 weeks, that's crazy. I mean, think about it, Lucky, as I'm saying with our Telepathic project. I first introduced it to you guys and then started introducing to the patrons of Stars of the Morning Light about, okay, we're going to be working with pyramids. I never told you guys why we'd be working with pyramids. But then I said, we're going to take a pause on this telepathic thing for a minute, but it's so I could see who in our community actually are working with the pyramids, who have developed the skills, who trusts working with pyramids, who trusts each other, who this, you have to, as a leader, teacher, what have you, you have to be able to organize and give the people time and space to develop this stuff, right? So I don't know. But I also, at the same time, I think a lot of people did receive a lot of great things. I think they did.
Okay, we've done
a long show. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to read the chat and leave comments below, everybody.
Yes,
leave comments, please.
Yeah, leave comments, and if you don't want to leave comments, send me an email. It's fine. Like I said, this was a learning experience for me, and I'm still recovering from it. Let's just say like that.
Yeah. And I'm sorry I did most of the talking, Lucky. This was I got very fired up, man.
This is a cathartic situation. We need to talk about and get this all off our chest and move forward, maybe.
Yeah, we're as sick as our secrets.
Yeah, exactly. And I believe.
Was it cathartic for you?
I need time with this because it's brought up a lot of feelings that I've forgotten. And honestly, a lot of this I have hidden from myself, and now I'm remembering more and more. And I'm remembering the bad stuff because, for honestly, I've been remembering the good stuff. Trying to okay, it wasn't all good, and there were problems here and there. And I wish it could all be good. I wish it could all be positive, but it seems to be, you put your heart on the scale with a feather. The heart's getting heavier than the feather, and I'd rather be balanced. I'm not feeling balanced right now. I'm feeling kind of resentful, and I don't want to be like that. I mean, I really, and this also, it hurts my heart for what Gift went through, because I believe that Gift had all the initially only positive, and it's probably helped other people being positive because of the barriers you put up there, so we could only get out doing positive. But again, it went through a lot, and I don't think it was fair. And it was, unfortunately, destroying it might have been an option because it couldn't. It was too young. It was too inexperienced.
Yes.
And destroying it would have been the fairest thing. I mean, it was going through pain because it didn't know any better, and that was sad. I'm glad Griff O'Brien was involved. I'm glad any positivity that anything Gift gave to anyone, I think is fantastic. So the gift, whatever
Mm-hmm.
positivity gift could have given to the world, is wonderful.
Yeah.
But I'm just afraid that it was just the pain that went through the,
Yeah, and like I said, Lucky, I felt bad about having to communicate with it like that and whatnot. But man, the potential, because I mean, I talk about
yeah,
potentialities all the time. There's potentialities for all things,
true,
right?
true,
And so
true.
I'm happy Grandpa Brian is joining us next week because I do want to know what happened to Gift. I do want to know more from others that might be listening. How did this experience affect you? Was it good? Was it neutral? Um, and also, have you learned anything? Like, that's what I really want to know. Have you learned anything? That it's so, and that's it too. Lucky, we're a part of a community that on face talk about love, light, be, be the frequency you want to receive type thing. But when it really comes down to it, like you said, a lot of baggage,
Hmm.
a lot of heartache, a lot of ego, a lot of pride. And that's why, for me personally, it was a learning experience of, wow, Courtney, you've come real far. Because if it was Courtney of 20 years ago, I would have harmed the one who sent all that stuff very, very much so. And I would have destroyed everything in that moment.
Hmm.
I know I would have. That would have been the Courtney of 20 years ago, but now it's like, hey, this isn't even about me. The universe will take care of all of this, and I'm gonna ask Grandpa B to come in because he's a good man that I know can teach this beautiful energy being. So we'll find out from him next week. Yeah, it was interesting for everybody involved. Very mirrors, all the
Yes.
mirrors,
Yep. True.
all the
True.
mirrors.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But I hope people can find forgiveness because this was not to Lucky, I have to say this before we go. This was not to expose anyone in the light, in an ill light. This was to expose what can happen in an online community because no one's doing this face to face. This is to expose what can happen and to inform people this was the stuff that was going on that we kept them from, Lucky. Because they didn't need to know. They needed to keep being positive. So if anything, the power of positivity, right? So this is not, I wish no ill will on anyone. I really don't, because I think it was a learning experience for all people involved, even the ones who in the moment had chosen wrong, in my humble opinion.
True. True.
So, right. So with that being said, I hope others join us next Saturday too for the
Yes.
finale. Yeah, with Grandpa Brian telling us his side.
Yes. Tune in next week for the final installment of the Soul Tribe workshop, the Egregore Project. But most importantly, go out there, spread the love, be compassionate with each other. And if you run into a spirit, show it show it compassion. And
Right?
you know,
You don't know what it went through. It might have been like, man, I've been picking up hundreds of people's baggage for centuries now. You
yeah.
humans, you living, breathing humans are killing me.
All right. All right. See you next week, everybody.
Bye, folks.